milestone points will drive the reporting to audit and risk around those milestones. An indicative timeline for the works that we've just talked about today, the working platform hanging scaffolding to be finished by May, so next month. Starting at the top, so the roof work finished by February. Then working down those ladder columns down the side of the building, have those completed by June 17. And then the final piece down at the podium level, so we're still working our way down the building, is to finish those September 2017. That's the indicative timeline, which the project plan has been determined for. So yeah, that's happy to take questions, like I say, as long as we can keep the budget and the any legally privileged information discussions for later.
Thank you, Kevin. And I mean, it's interesting that one of the issues in the alternate financing discussions that we've been having is to maybe, why do we need to own the building? But I mean, if we're going to sell it and get the best price for it, presumably we need to make sure it's up to spec. Councillor Cashmore.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. There's been a lot of publicity and comment, media, and the public around this issue, Kevin. First question I have is the new cladding. What's the warranty for that? How long is it warranted for?
25? Yep. Yeah, we'll get 25 years on that.
25 years. Okay, so if we look at the actual maths around the building, the financial maths, Madam Chair, if I may, the building was purchased for 104, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kevin, for 104 million, and our refurb and shift have cost around 54. That comes up to 158 mil.
Yeah, but if I could just qualify a couple of pieces. So that's the $50-odd million figure was actually made up of two component pieces. Yep. Yeah, so there was 25 million was a fit out.
Yep. $28
million was other works, which is things like the rollout of the IT equipment, which you take with you and shift. It was other works such as doing the services, which we're planning to do over the next 10, 20 years, yep, while you had the ceiling panels off. Progressed those and did those at the same time. So yeah, but some of those actually in effect relocatable cost as well. Sure. Yep.
So that gives us total cost of 158, and I understand that we had an unsolicited approach late last year to buy the building for around 250 million. Is that roughly correct?
Yep. Yeah, and there's been other approaches as well. Yep.
So that gives us a capital profit, Madam Chair, of around 98 million. So less the cost of the reclad of 30, net profit of 68. But that reclad, a big chunk of it would actually probably be added to the capital value of the building. I know when you buy a commercial building, if you look at the tenant and then you look at the roof, and if they've got a good roof, that adds to the value of the building. If you've got a good tenant, that even adds more. So then we've looked, if we say put some of that cost of that reclad, whatever it comes out at, let's say it's 25, back into the building, that ends up with a net actual marketable capital gain profit of 93 million, which I'd actually suggest probably the one of the deals of the century. But anyway, looking forward, we can achieve that. And if we look at saying, okay, are we going to, what's the best maths, what's the best business model of, do we sell the building off and release it back, because we are an A plus tenant, I would think, and probably get a pretty sharp deal about that. And what is the best business maths proposal coming up for that? So, Kevin, has that sort of work been looked at?
Oh, look, as you're aware, the alternate financing discussion is looking at those very issues. Okay. And as you've mentioned, one of the things you want to do is, if you are looking at any options, is you reduce risk for anybody that's looking at that proposal.
Definitely, yeah.
And at the moment, there's an unknown quantity we have to assess. Yep.
So that 93 million could be helped to reduce debt or enable further infrastructure provision for a growing city.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I think that, Madam Chair, sums up a large chunk of what's the discussion here. Some of it has been ill-informed, and I'm very disappointed as a Chair of Audit and Risk that someone leaked the confidential documents. I think that was most unfortunate and irresponsible, and I really hope that we can actually find the person responsible. The person responsible actually has the intestinal fortitude to stand up, and they can be sanctioned under the Code of Conduct, because that is quite inappropriate and has probably cost the ratepayers of this country and city quite a bit of money.
There isn't a point of order.
There is a point of order, Madam Chair. If I call a point of order...
Well, what's the point of order?
The point of order is the Councillor Cashmore is assuming that it was a member of this elected body that was responsible for the leak, when it could very well have been a member of staff.
Well, I believe that actually in the Herald story, and we've always got to believe those, is that it wasn't a member of staff. So maybe Councillor Cashmore's got a point.
I don't think that's
Councillor Fletcher.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a question and a comment, if I may. It would be helpful to know For the granite that is not going to be used, what are you anticipating in terms of its disposal?
Yeah, look, no, that's being discussed as we speak as well. Some of it may be needed down at the podium level. If taking off the existing granite finds any fractures or anything, we may need to use it there. Outside of that, we will seriously look at options as to the saleability of that product. If the panels are in good condition, which we anticipate many will be, they are a marketable commodity. There may be some small costs involved in storage and things depending on how soon we can reach that. But yeah, we'd actually look at the options available to market that product.
Madam Chair, I really just want not to get into the finance of this, and I accept what is being said by Councillor Cashmore in terms of us sitting on the upside of the ledger. The issue for me is around a case study in this and what lessons we can take from it, and the concerns that I've got are in no way implied criticism of our current CEO or CFO. I took a very strong interest in this from the very beginning. This was, to me, a really bad example of how one should go about the purchase of a building. And frankly, I found it reprehensible and outrageous that at every step that I asked for information from the CEO to make sure that there was integrity in the process, that there was accountability and fairness for the ratepayer, I was fobbed off. And in fact, I think for those of us who were asking questions, the role of the staff at the time was patronising and dismissive of us. And that is not to say that the building should or shouldn't have been purchased, but we were not given the information. We were told that Civic was a risk, but we did not get the written information of why it was a risk and whether it was a risk in terms of evaluation with other...
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yes, Councillor.
We're discussing 135 Albert, not the Civic building, and I think we need to just focus on 135 Albert. This is not...
I'll come back to 135.
The issue of, I'd like to finish my...
I
The
think
issue of the Civic building is not material to this discussion. I'd like us to stay on track.
Well, I think if we want to break for lunch at 1:30, as Councillor Wood wants us to, maybe we better not go over the history.
Well, sometimes history actually teaches us something.
Yeah,
And in the case of the decision that was taken to purchase 135 Albert Street, it was not taken as was recommended to the governing body. It was taken, and we had if you will recall, at the earlier, we had an accountability and performance as well as having a finance and strategy committee, and the decision was taken to take it to a finance committee and not to the governing body. A number of councillors wanted to see the plan in terms of how we were going to accommodate, because it was suggested the local boards would fit in, that we would be able to move CCOs in. We were not given that information. We were requested to give delegations exclusively to the CEO on this, and there was an absence of information. And it's that absence of information, and this happened as elected members on our watch.
I have a point of order.
yes, Councillor Dunn.
I want some clarity from the chair as to where we're going with this. We don't have a motion on the floor to speak to. I would also like to speak to it. I would like some clarity as to where we're going with this particular item. So my question, Chair, is we are going to consider the legally privileged information, and we can't consider the possible negotiations for the procurement of services and numbers around that for those reasons. But I need some clarity. Is this a time now to ask questions, and then when there's a motion that's moved, that's the time to speak to the motion? And can that be in the open part of the meeting after we've come out of public excluded?
Councillor, we were hoping that this part of the meeting would just give the bare bones of what the issue is and where we're going to with this.
So can we, and I don't like to call point of orders on members when they're speaking, but it's not clear at the moment where we are going with this. This is going to take a while, and I would hope that we flush questions out, go to legal, come out of public excluded and then put the motions, whatever they might be, up and debate. And that's the place to make your comments.
Madam Chair, with respect, I said I have a question and I have some comments, and you gave me authority. I'd like to conclude my comments.
I think it would be really helpful if the comments, I mean, the history is the history. We are in this situation today, and we are dealing with the situation as it is today. I really don't think it's helpful to say he said, she said in the background, because what happened, happened. We've got the building, we've got an issue, let's move forward. And I really hope councillors can think of that, because it doesn't really help for us to go, well, I didn't vote for this, I did vote for this, I didn't vote for that, I didn't vote for that. We've got all the voting records, and I think we've just got to move on with the issue we've got today.
Madam Chair, thank you. What I am trying to convey is that you make the best decisions when you have all of the information. And there has been no opportunity, because this was slipped in just before Christmas when everyone was trying to get away, the decision, I mean, to purchase it. The concerns that people like Councillor Quacks and I had about whether leasing was a better option than purchase, none of these things were given daylight and airtime at the time. And what my request is, what lessons can we take from this, given the confidence we now have in our CFO and CEO, what we are taking from this experience forward in the analysis of our requirements and any future purchase. I will support, because we must strongly ensure that the building is safe, and I will give my support to that. But I want the assurance today that there's no more under the carpet in terms of the background process to that, and some of the councillors have gone on to other things and they're not all here. But it was on our watch, we didn't have all the information, and I would just like the confidence from the CEO that in future, if there is information that we seek, that it will be made available to us.
I think, Madam Chair, we can confirm that we have always provided elected members with information that they've asked for. If it exists, we have given it. And part of the reason for recommending that you have a discussion in the public today is to reassure people about that, so that we can discuss the problem with the building and the solution to it to protect our investment on behalf of Aucklanders. So the purpose of the public piece of the meeting is to allow confidence to be built that there isn't information sitting in a locked filing cabinet that you don't have access to. What we learn going forward is will be taken into account, as Kevin Ramsey has said. We do have a proposition that we are working on around what we do with our corporate property, and this building is the cornerstone asset in that property portfolio, and we do have some propositions that we want to work with the council on going forward, and we think you'll have a very strong interest in those, and we will take some lessons learned out of this to apply to those propositions.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Yes, well, health and safety is really very, very important, so I'm supportive of doing some work. But and I note that you said that you've got 25-year warranty on the cladding, but it's been in the news internationally, as you know, on the on New Year's Eve in Dubai, the cladding that was on the building, I think it was a 72-storey building, was the cladding and the silicone doesn't now meet the International Fire Code, and I just want to make sure that this cladding that we're talking about, if whatever cladding we're going to be using, even though it's got the 25-year warranty, I just want to make sure that in the very near future, 5-10 years time, that we're not going to have to re-look at the cladding that we put up there because it hasn't because at the moment, there is a lot of discussion internationally about fire code in high-rise building and cladding. I just want to make sure that, we're not going to be spending, and I'm not going to be talking about the, that you know where I'm coming from?
Yep.
So could you just...
Yep. Yeah, look, no, through the chair. Look, no, health and safety is a critical component of this. Safety and design was a key component in actually assessing the options. And although the 25-year warranty was a fixed parameter, we wanted to get that. Key to the whole consideration when 40 different materials were examined was the nature of the fire resistance that's incorporated in there and ensuring that they do meet the high New Zealand standards. So, yep, you can be comfortable that that is the case.
Thank you. Councillor Casey.
I've got two questions and you can guide me as to whether they can be spoken about in public. My first one is about the reduction in the purchase price of the ASB building because of the due diligence. Are we allowed to see how much that reduction was?
Yeah, look, I suppose there are two components to that. Yeah, there was a reduction, and it wasn't the full amount. Part of the discussion at the time was actually what are you negotiating for a market price. The initial price that was discussed substantially reduced, regardless of the due diligence process, was substantially reduced to what we believe was market right. But yeah, without mentioning the exact number, there was a reduction in the price.
Can you say what the number was? Is that a secret?
It was the order of, it was $1.1 million.
$1.1 million. So that was a reduction price because of the due diligence report on the cladding?
The final stage of the due diligence process. There had already been reductions in part of the negotiation process.
Got that. So 1.1 million because of the due diligence report by Mott MacDonald. Can you tell me about the liability of Mott MacDonald for this blowout in the budget for cladding now?
I think
During the
that's
confidential section, we can definitely discuss that. Yep.
Well, you've said it in your
But it's
report. No.
legal.
You've got a phrase up there that says appropriate due diligence undertaken which identified issue with stone fixing becoming part of negotiations.
Yes.
We've got to be
The
careful.
liability
I
for the
think
due diligence.
You've got to be
is-
careful,
you
Madam
asked
Chair.
me-
Yeah.
I know,
Can we-
you asked me to guide you, Councillor
All right,
Casey, and
I'll
I'm
take that guidance.
suggesting you
My
don't
next
do that.
question then.